Hello guys, in this video after moves d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4, we'll check lines after move g6, one of the main move also in this position. Obviously black wants to develop bishop on g7, short castle, then play c5 and create contrapel on d4 square also on this diagonal. So I like to play here queen d2. The idea is also very obvious. We want to exchange these bishops, sometimes prepare long castle. Black has two directions here, bishop g7 or delay it a little bit with move like c6, for example. After 6, we're not playing bishop h6 because then we're wasting time. So we play this f3, very useful move. Control these two squares, preparing e4 or g4, and also waiting black to play this. b5, I had game like that against Luca Moroni. Here is a3, useful move. e4 is also possible, but a3 I think a normal way to play. After bishop g7 I should play e4. I played bishop h6 as I usually do, but e4 was much stronger here. And if black takes, we just take, play bishop e2, then knight f3, short castle, we have strong center. I think white chances are higher. So I don't think 6 is a good move, to be honest. So bishop g7, most natural way to play. Bishop h6. And now two options, bishop h6 or short castle. After bishop h6, the idea of black is to distract white queen here and play bishop f5. This is very tricky direction. There is also another possibility, c5 or knight c6. In case of knight c6, black is like copying white's player, put knight in front of pawn. We can play long castle, and after bishop f5, now we play f3 and preparing e4 or g4. Now queen d6 or queen d7. If queen d7, this is actually a big mistake because e4, then we play g4, d5 and win the piece here. That's why queen has to be on d6 here. And now after e4, we can also play g4, bishop e6, e3. I think this position is also a slight advantage for white. We fix center, sometimes transfer knight here, h4. I like white's prospects here. But after e4, now they can take. And the point that to compare that line, when queen was here, after knight d5, if we take now f3, there's a check on f4. And now suddenly it's black who's much better here. Instead, we take on d5, take on e4, and this kind of position black can achieve. And according to engine, the strong engines here, white is slightly better, but black probably have good chances to hold this position. That's why I think it's more preferable to play g4 than e3, more modest play here. But okay, this is up to taste of black. The best move is bishop f5. They can also try c5, but now we have two directions. e3, as I had game against Luca Moroni in World Rapid Championship, e3 is also playable, and after cd, ed, black has to find this a6 move, prevent this bishop b5 pin after knight 6. But also very interesting to take on c5 here. This is a concrete way to play, and now black has different ways to recapture it with knight d7, knight a6 or queen e5. Best move is queen e5. If knight d7, I think we can play something like a long castle here, attacking pawn. If knight c5, there is a e4, very unpleasant move, and then bishop b5 is coming. Black already can be in some danger here. For example, these kind of variations possible happens, and the queen g7, so this is very risky for black. If they play knight a6, again same way, or e4 even immediately, also very risky. That's why I think queen a5 is the best way to play here. Now we play e3, and after queen c5, knight f3. And I like white chances here because this queen not allows a short castle, queen on c5 a bit misplaced here. And now a6 probably is the best way to play, because if knight c6, there is very unpleasant move bishop b5 here. This is a strong reply against these moves to pin this knight. Now black has bishop d7 or a6 options. What else? If bishop d7, we just make long castle, then take and play knight e5. I think it's a big advantage already for white here. d4 can be possible, d1, f4 always we fix. White, engine shows quite big advantage. So a6 I think is the best way to play. And after bishop 6, bc is important, not queen, because after long castle then we play rook d3, rook d1, also a lot of pressure here. But bc, try to open this b file, also defend pawn on d5. But now we play a long castle. This is a strong move, not knight d4, because queen b6 is a strong idea, and c5, and things are complicated here. Instead, long castle, because bishop g4 is not working for complete reasons here. We not afraid to give this a change on f3, because we play this, and after rook b8, for example, we can play knight a4 here. Can be very unpleasant move, I think. Or rook d1 even, yeah. Maybe rook d1 is better here. First develop like that, and e4 is coming. So black can play e6 with idea queen f8 to get rid from this queen, but we can play knight a4. And after queen f8, we can even trade and play rook c3 or rook b3, or just ignore and play queen f4. And I think after queen e7, we can play something like this position, knight c5. It should be a very pleasant position for white. Blocking knight here, attacking pawn. Black squares are weak, something like short castle. If we take maybe rook a8 or something, but we can play something like h4 here with h5. Black will probably stop, queen g5 ideas, f4. I mean, engine doesn't give such a big evolution here, but it's, I think, still preferable for white. Black also can try to play rook b8 here, try to create some contraplay over b file, but we can play something like rook d4 here. This is an interesting move here. Avoiding this bishop g4, try to block after queen b6. We can play even knight a4 or b3, both are okay. And then engine transfers this rook on f4, knight g5, and put a lot of pressure here. Very interesting move, rook d4. Knight d4 is also very possible here without knight b3. But okay, in general, I think black is not doing well here. Instead, bishop f5. If black plays this line, they must know bishop f5. Also, I had game against Anton Demchenko in European Individual Championship. He also played like that. And in that period, I didn't know well these lines, and I played queen d2, just defended and wanted to play e3, f3. Eventually, I somehow won that game, but it was very well played by him. He just messed up in time trouble. Instead, f3 is a move here. Here's also possible long castle, but after long castle, knight g4 is a very unpleasant move, attacking the queen and pawn. And if queen h4, there's e6, queen g3, queen d6, and black is demanding to trade the queens there. So it looks like more or less okay here. We can play knight h3, then probably take ag. So there's not much things to complain for black here. So they're doing pretty okay. So instead of long castle, f3. This is a concrete move with idea g4. And now after bishop a5, black has to bravely take this c2 pawn, not c5 first, because after ed, e3, cd, ed, this inclusion of moves favors white. Now bishop c2 is more risky than before, because g4 and queen d2. And we just simply catch this bishop here. Something like g5, I think it's only move here. But here we have this unpleasant check. Then we can simply take, pawns are equal, queen d2, knight d2, maybe long castle, short castle is coming later. So this is unpleasant position for black. They can avoid take on capture on c2 and play knight 6, but now we have this, again, typical idea, bishop b5. And white is simply very... has very good position. For example, rook c8, we can go even long castle here. a6, we can take, play knight g2, not afraid any attacks here, because g4 will be followed. For example, b5, we have this g4 move, get rid from bishop. If he goes to d7, we can play knight f4. Engine is like winning position for white already here. King stacked, black squares are weak. Probably best way to play is bishop c2, but we can take, calmly retreat to b1, take on c3. Again, it's visible that white has better prospects here. Knight is stronger than this one, it's very passive. Restrained this with these pawns. Rook e1 is coming, king stacked. So evolution is around +1 here, I think. Quite unpleasant. Black can try to play a6 here, a traditional move to avoid. Maybe it's the strongest move actually after trade on d4. Still we can play g4, play bishop d3, knight e2, and again I think white's position is preferable in my opinion here, because of king situation. Maybe they have to prepare a long castle somehow here. We can play something like a3, prophylaxis here. Maybe a long castle is possible. Now even engines say something like b4 plan here with direct attack, so it can be very dangerous for black also. Okay, this is requires some practice here. But instead of c5, obviously most principal is bishop c2. So if black takes on h6, plays bishop f5, it's logical they will take here. And after this g4, it's automatically played move to try to catch this bishop. And now black plays c5 or even b5. b5 is also some crazy move. It's actually novelty. And after rook c1 to play b4, this typical engine stuff. And if rook c2, obviously black takes here, they're okay. Knight b5 looks like strong continuation. If black moves bishop, there is knight c7 idea. But a6, rook c2, and something like b3. And I think white has very nice compensation. We fix these pawns, protect this. Next will be something like e3, knight e2, knight c1, knight d3, attack these pawns, and bishop e2, and slowly develop our pieces. So very nice position to play for 3 results, and requires practice also. b5, it's a crazy move. c5 would be probably more human spirit to try to attack this pawn. And now after e3, if cd, we know already is bad because we play queen d2 next. But instead, black has 2 options, c4, knight c6. c4 is inaccuracy because we play rook c1. After bishop d3, take and knight h3, good move. Next will be knight f2, knight d3. I think there was some game like that. I forgot who was playing, some female players, I think. Instead, c4, knight c6 is a strong move. Black is very well prepared for play like this concretely. And now rook c1 probably is the best way to play. Attacks the bishop, black captures, takes on d4. And after knight b5, then must know this move, g5, very strong move. Not knight e6, not knight b5, of course, because bishop b5, knight d7, we don't take immediately because of check. But we first trade the knight and then take and piece up. Queen f5 immediately also probably bad, yeah, because of queen d2, just black is losing piece. So that's why g5. If knight e6, also possible, it leads to this kind of position, very complicated. Engine evaluates around equal. It's super strong initiative for black, probably queen b6, king d1, but it's piece still. Instead, g5 is a very strong idea here. And now queen g5 is a bad move because of knight e6. We protect this square, hit the queen, and then retreat. Black is better here. Instead, knight d4, queen f5 check, and this is a funny draw. Because now king f2 is a big mistake to of queen b6 here. And black is better, yeah, after rook c2. So there's a check on g4, and this is hanging. And that's why we need to play king e2. And after check, again, king f2 is mistake because knight g4, and it looks like it's drawish variation here. There's no way to escape. If king e3, knight g4, king d2, knight e4. So this is a funny draw here. What can be achieved in this line. Okay, so what can black also play? Instead of bishop h6, they can. The main move is actually here, short castle here, in this position. And now we play this setup not because we want to take and go direct attack. For example, h4. I do like to play like that because c5 and black has very nice counterplay on the in the center. Takes and play h5, fix it, and then start to play like that on the center and c5. Instead, I like to play like bishop g7. King g7 and e3. Long castle is interesting option, which leads to very funny position, like funny draw. c5, strong move, dc, and queen f5. Yeah, in the past I was a little bit analyzed this, and I was sure that black is okay. Then I analyzed this a bit deeper, and actually I found out that black has one precise play, way to equalize here. So knight d5, queen a2, and queen c3, this position. So here, for example, queen a1, we can go for king d2, queen a4, b3, queen c6, we can go back, then we take, knight f3, knight a6, and we go for this kind of endgame. I think it's preferable for white. We develop on g2, put pressure here. Using that bishop d5 is not possible, do of check, and white is clearly better here. And here is very unpleasant endgame for black. This is not a precise play for black, definitely. So instead of queen a1, they can try bishop e6, but after this we can take and play knight f3. Now rook c8 or knight c6. In case of rook c8, we go knight d4, then queen a3, very strong idea. And now This is losing by spot because of check on e6 and check on d7, and then we capture the queen. But knight c5, we take, and king d2. And this is very playable position again. If check, we go here, then e3, b3, or g3. So this is not 100% equalizer for black, but they have very strong idea here. Instead of bishop e6 or queen e1, all suddenly this king h6. What is this crazy move by engine? Absolutely insane move. So we are unpinning the king. We cannot go to g8 because knight e7 check here. So king h6, there is no check anymore. And white has to be very careful here. They need to repeat after check on d2, king g7. I'm just curious why not possible g5 here. Continue this crazy way. Because of knight c3, we play knight b1, and also h4 is coming. Okay. So black also cannot do much. So this is funny draw. We just repeat moves like that. And if white will try to play for win after b3, this dubious move, because of rook d8, after e4, knight 6, this is a very dangerous position for white actually. It can very quickly go very wrong. Bishop e6 is coming next. I don't think it's a good idea to play for it because it's evolution 0-0, and sometimes goes to minus. So white has to be very precise not to lose. So long castle is funny line, but not the best. e3, in my opinion, should be played. And now black has two different approach, or play knight d7 or c5. c5 is the most natural human move. Knight bd7, usually this move we play to prepare e5 or c. Because after c5, knight natural location is on c6. But after knight d7, we still play h3. I like this plan to go for g4. And now c6 or e5. In case of e5, this is actually a mistake because we take long castle and we attack the pawn. And if c6, we have this e4 move here using this pin. If bishop e6, there is f4. I'm just curious what happens if bishop e6 here immediately. Probably f4 immediately we play, yeah. And now knight c4, we just take with clearly advantage. Even endgame is good. We can also avoid endgame and e4. Black has to play something like knight d7, then we play g4, g5, bishop g2. Very big pressure here on the king side. So e5 is a risky move. c6 probably. Black has to first support this pawn to prepare e5. And now long castle will be a mistake because we are not forced to make long castle yet because b5 coming, knight b6, b4, and black has initiative on the queen side. Instead, g4, of course, after h3 we play. And now b5 maybe still is possible, but we go g5 now. If knight h5, we have this bishop e2, try to trade on h5. If knight e8, we have h4. Then f4 is very complicated position, and this requires practice definitely, this position, but we want to play something like h5, queen h2. It's up to taste to go for this with black. e5 looks much more logical after moves knight d7, 6, e5. But we play d, then long castle. And now we want to play f4, g5, knight f3. Something like queen e7, go here. And now in this position, black has choice, knight h5 or knight e4. In case of knight e4, this is actually dubious move because we just take, and there will be stampy, and play knight f3. And the next will be h4, h5. It's very hard to play for black. They're a bit behind of development. For example, knight c5, try to put it here. We immediately jump to e5, cover this square. For example, bishop f5. And now engine says it's winning for white after knight g4 move. When d4 is coming, forcing to trade. H file is opening. Yeah, this is lost for black already. You see, I played two human moves, instantly lost. So this is dangerous to play with black. Knight h file looks much more natural. Try to block this pawn to advance. We play simply knight f3, not bishop e2 because here. But knight f3, I want to play rook g1 and cut off this knight. For example, after b5, I think rook or knight d4 first. Yeah, even rook g1 is maybe interesting here. But there is some b4, some initiative. So knight d4 first, we attack these pawns. And if bishop b7, bishop e2, knight g3, rook g1, then we trade. And this is some complicated position again, but I like white's prospects. f5 is coming, h4, h5 is coming. Black a little bit delay on the counterplay on the queen side, in my opinion. Okay, so let's go back. Instead of knight d7, I'm pretty sure 9 players out of 10 will play c5 here. This is the usual move. And now I like this h3. We can tell that this is a new plan, new novelty idea. Maybe some players play this, but accidentally. Maybe they wanted to prevent this bishop g4 and just develop. That was his idea. But my idea is to play h3, g4. So knight 6 and g4. The idea of this move that first of all we're not allowing this bishop f5. Sometimes we have g5 and attacking on the king side. Also we open this interesting good square for the bishop. Usually it goes to d3, but here we're attacking this pawn. So black has different ways to play here. h6, h5, e5, cd, queen a5. So let's see all of them. If h6, this would be actually a natural move by black to stop this g5. We can play dc. I like this move. Go for concrete lines. Now e5 is the main move. If queen a5, we can play knight e2, then long castle, and something like f4 in this position. Now b5 is a mistake, I think, because of knight d4, and white is already big advantage here. According to engine, if trade we take and pawn is hanging, if they play something like b4, we can go here, and I think we can simply take pawn on b4. And black really need to work hard to find any compensation here. So this not looks good. e5 looks much more stronger. Try to hold this square, but we simply play bishop g2 and we have a very nice initiative. Next we will play something like king b1. Sometimes we trade, capture this file. Also, not file, square. g5 is also coming, rook f1. So I think it's a very interesting position to play. Black also can try to play e5 for some compensation here, but we play bishop g2 and simply develop. Now best way to play is d4 for black. If queen a5, we play f4 here and it's transposing to the previous line. If queen e7, yeah, it's the same. Same line, but they can play d4 here, try to play for initiative instead of capturing pawn. But we take and knight b5, and it will be very funny position in the end. Bishop d5, strong move. Try to exchange this active bishop. We play short castle, not afraid weakness of the king side. Take, check, and f3. Okay, according to engine, they are close to equal, but with very precise play. For human, it will be not easy. Probably best way to play is queen c5 and to go for this kind of position. So we have pawn up, and black, okay, our king is a bit weak, but it's not easy for black to prove it. Because if they will be greedy and play rook d8, try to stop, prevent to take this pawn, we have this knight d6 strong idea. Now queen c5, knight b7, we win the exchange. If they play b6, it's the best move probably. If rook d7, then b4, and white is simply better in this position. b6 is a strong reply to make weakness on c5 square, and now play rook d7. But now we play knight g3, and this is very complicated position. I think I still prefer white. And also it's a trap. If black captures finally on c5, they're losing immediately after check. Black can resign, because gf we take, king g8, we just take, and there's a mate. How they can defend. If knight goes here, we have this idea. Check, 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 and take this queen. Yeah. So this can be very interesting line also for black, but I prefer to play after g4, cd4, I think is the best way to play here. And after ed4, and now we had also a game against my friend from Italy, Grandmaster Luca Moroni, and he played h5, a move which I actually did not expect to see it. Because more human way to play is queen a5 or e5 or something, but he played h5, very interesting move. And I was so shocked that he played it that I forget my own lines, and instead of play strong move bishop g2, which I should play, I played long castle, bad move, and I forget completely that he's not obliged to take because of these mating ideas, but he found this rook h8. I forget about this move, and this is hanging, and it's forcing me to play g5, and after knight e8, black is fine, because they will capture this square later. Knight c7, bishop f5, e6, and white has to be very careful not to get bad position. Instead, bishop g2 would be a strong reply after h5 here. The aim is to provocate e6 move, because we want to play g5. And after e6, then we can play long castle or even knight f3 first. And when bishop is locked on c8, I think it's more preferable position for white. Knight goes to e5. But h5 it's it will be very strange to face it first time when you see this position by black. So more like queen a5 or e5. Queen a5 is the main move. They can also try knight e4, but this looks like panic move. Yeah, like you don't know what to do. You try to go for some concrete, hope for best, but instead it's the worst. We take d5. It's a long castle and very dangerous position for black here. For example, after queen d6, we go knight e2. they're really in big trouble because this pawn is very weak here. For example, bishop d7, we go queen d4. f5, we take, and then knight f4. Blocking everything, then king is exposed, rook g1 is opening here. This is a very dangerous position for black. So I can try to play f5 immediately, but then we take. And now gf weakness kingside. If bishop f5, this pawn is very weak. We play bishop g2, then knight g3, and put a lot of pressure on this pawn. I think this is a bad idea for black to play knight e4. They can also try to play e5, but this also looks very, very risky move. We just capture. Now if knight e4, we can go for this endgame, where black has some compensation for the pawn, but it's still extra pawn and very pleasant endgame. We just develop. It's some kind of like in Ragozin, sometimes we can see these kind of positions when white has these double pawns and it's extra pawn, but I think this is even better reduction for white than in Ragozin. So instead of knight e4, if they capture, we can play long castle, and I think this is a big advantage for white here, because isolated pawn. If, for example, they play something like bishop e6, there is always this f4 annoying move. Knight c6, so we can just develop here, bishop goes here, f5, we always have to watch. So this looks very, very bad. e5 is not, black is not ready for such moves. Queen f5 probably is the best way to play. And after queen f5, bishop g2. We develop this bishop first, not committing any decision yet. So we put pressure here. And now rook d8, probably the best way to play. e6, again, this is a bit passive. We go g5, h4, then h5. Something like this. I analyzed extra this line. It's very dangerous for black, let's say like that. Rook d8 looks like a good move. Knight e2. And now idea of rook d8 is actually preparing this b5, very strong idea here. The best move is b5 according to engine. Bishop d7 is just dubious because of g5 here, obviously. This is hanging. If they play e6, again, we play knight g3 with very strong initiative. We just push forward these pawns. If h5, we can play like gh now already. Knight h5 and something like bishop f3, and again push this pawn. It's actually quite big advantage for white. Black can also try to play h6, normal move, yeah, to stop it, but f4. Coming with g5, long castle, and so on. Instead, black has to find this best move, b5. Try to create immediately counterplay. But b5 is connected with pawn sacrifice, which leads to very unclear endgame for human point of view. Of course, for engine, it doesn't matter. It's always equal. But look at this position. Engine goes for this line, knight d4. Only way to play. And bishop b7. This is a point of b5, stopping c4. But in my opinion, it's still playable. We play rook e1 and very strong move bishop f1. This is a move I like. And now if bishop c4, we take and king c3. This can be very dangerous for black, but okay, engine will somehow hold. But for human, it looks very dangerous for black. Bishop g2 may be more stronger, but still, we take, play king c3. And here, evaluation is like 0-0, but you know, super precise play, because it can be very risky. We play c3, a4, bishop is strong, 3 versus 2. So I don't know. For me, it's still playable. And also black has to know this line precisely and to get this quite dubious endgame, in my opinion, from human point of view. So I think this was very interesting lines, and it will be useful in practice. See you next time.